Selamat sore semua. Saya sedang berbincang dengan Kat Morrison. Beliau adalah Head untuk Visa dan International Student Support di Edinburgh Napier University. Sebetulnya setiap kali calon mahasiswa ingin berangkat ke Inggris, kami dibantu oleh kantor mereka pada saat kita mulai mengajukan aplikasi visa atau pada saat kita sedang menunggu cas, ya. Mereka banyak membantu. Demikian juga akomodasi dan hal-hal lainnya yang berhubungan dengan kedatangan mahasiswa internasional termasuk dari Indonesia. Sekarang kita coba cari tahu dari beliau kira-kira apa sih sebetulnya yang bisa dikerjakan atau dibantu oleh kantornya, dalam hal ini dari Edinburgh Napier University, bagi mahasiswa internasional khususnya dari Indonesia. Thank you for having me, Kat. What is actually, in brief, if you can explain to us, what is actually the task of your office?
Okay, so we're the Visa and International Support team at Edinburgh Napier University, and we help all our international students with any immigration queries they might have, helping them apply for their student visa, giving them the CAS that they need to apply for the student visa, letting them know how much money they need to have in their bank accounts, etc. We give them advice on their dependents joining them in the UK as well. We also give them advice on, things that they need to be aware of when they're coming to the UK. So we do pre-arrival events for our students. It's on a Teams call, and we let students know of different things that they need to know before they come to the UK and what kind of clothing to wear, because Scotland can be quite cold sometimes. And actually it's snowing in Edinburgh at the moment, but it doesn't snow all the time. So, we just prepare them for life in Edinburgh. But from the more kind of serious side of things, we do help them with their visa applications and any questions that they have relating to that.
I see. So, you mentioned about dependent. When a student is coming, this is usually happen to PhD students. When they bring their family in, they will need a support letter stating that the family is joining. So you will be the one who...
We don't provide that letter because in most cases when it's PhD students, they're usually sponsored by the local government.
Yes.
And the local government usually provides that kind of letter that confirms the student's name along with the course title and the duration of the course.
Yeah.
And it usually mentions including any dependents coming to the UK with them. So we don't provide that kind of letter from the university.
Good.
That comes from the local government usually. If PhD students or any other student isn't sponsored by the local government but sponsored by somebody else, then they just get that letter from wherever they're sponsored by.
Very good. This is actually clarifying. Most students were thinking that if I bring my family in, I should get a statement letter from the university, which we actually have mentioned to everyone. When you are flying into the UK to study, you bring your family. They don't actually issue anything. It is given by our sponsors, or it's actually from ourselves to the family, to our family. If we are bringing them, we just have to issue a sponsor letter from ourselves to sponsor our family joining in to be in the UK, right? And then when a student is thinking about coming into Edinburgh, they're thinking about living in, settling in. We understand that most students have applied for accommodations before they go. Do they also liaise with you, the accommodation office?
So the accommodation offices, they're a different team to us. So we liaise in respect of, if a student contacts us asking for any advice on accommodation, we normally refer them onto the accommodation team, who are much better placed to give advice. But we will assist as much as we can with accommodation. If students don't know where to ask the questions, our door is always open. We're always happy for students to ask us as a first point of contact, and then we'll direct them to which department they need to speak to. Or we can sometimes speak to departments on their behalf as well, depending on their situations.
So you'll be it may be best to say that you will be the first contact.
We can be, yeah. So we have a thing called My Napier, which is really helpful, and all our different professional services and different departments are there, and there is information there about accommodation with their contact details and things like that. But we always advise our international students, if they're not sure where to go, just send us an email or pop in, you know, once they're in the UK, pop into the office and see us.
And you'll guide them.
And we'll guide them, yeah.
I believe you've been seeing a lot of issues for the past few years. What is the toughest issues that you have had?
The immigration rules change, you know, and sometimes they can make the student experience quite difficult. They change, you know, things to do with coming into the UK, etc. But on the whole, you know, we've had an increase in students, which is amazing. It's always good to see our international students coming into the UK. But we deal with any situation as best as we can. You know, we find some students, you know, get personal issues, they get academic issues, you know. So we're there to assist them as much as we can, to, you know, as far as we can. But you know, there's different issues. I think the immigration issues are probably the hardest ones, because we have to abide by it. You know, our university is a sponsor licence holder, and you know, we have to make sure that our students are engaging with their studies the way that they're meant to be doing according to their student visas. And sometimes that can be difficult for students, particularly in the first instance when they arrive in the UK, because they're not sure of the academic structure. It can be slightly different to what they've already been, you know, how they've already been taught, and so it is a struggle. So what we do advise is always reach out. You know, don't try and hide and not attend, because obviously that's very important. Because if you're not attending classes as you're meant to, we need to withdraw the visa. So that's, you know, one of the issues is engagement. You know, just making sure all our students, because we do checks, we do various checks to make sure that people are engaging as students are engaging as they're required to.
That was a very good point mentioned by Kat about if you're not able to attend the class, you have to inform the university, you have to speak to them, as otherwise you have a lot of absence, then it will be an issue. Your visa may be cancelled because of that. So it's very good advice, because some students they are not aware. And
we do send communication out when students enrol at the university. We do send them a communication, and I know there's a lot of words in it, but we need to make sure that we're telling the information on what their visa means, but also we let them know what it means from our perspective as well. So we need to be doing things as well. And we totally understand that at the beginning of any term, the students get so much information. But when it comes to the student visa, it's really, really important that you understand the rules that are attached to the actual visa. And you know, if you're not sure what something means in an email that we send to you, just ask us. You know, sometimes, you know, the way we say things in the UK might be slightly different to how it's interpreted in other countries. So if you're not sure of the terminology, of the wording, absolutely just ask us.
Get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
And when a student is having an issues with the visas, presumably not with visa, but when they are, for example, losing their passport when they are in the UK. We had a case like this before, and we also advised the students to go to the Indonesian embassy to get a new passport to be issued. But before that, will it be wise for them to be in touch as well with you?
Yes, we need to know. So whenever a student gets a new visa, a new BRP card, a new passport, they need to notify us of that, because we must have our records completely up to date. students are studying with us. And even if they know how to reach out to the embassy themselves, if they can just send us a communication to say, I've lost my passport, but I've applied for a new one, and then we'll be advising them just to send us a copy once they've received that.
Right.
Or if they forget to tell us, then they can just send us the new one when they've got it.
Yeah.
As long as we've got the most up-to-date copies of their travel and immigration status.
Including the one that usually happen as well. They lost their BRP card.
Yes.
It happens a lot.
It does happen.
Right.
It does happen.
So what is actually the process when a student is losing a BRP
Well,
card?
the BRP card, the UKVI website, there's a link to lost BRP card. So it needs to be reported to the Home Office and replaced as quickly as possible.
Right.
So what the Home Office do when the student's reported as missing or lost, they cancel it. So it becomes void.
Useless.
Even if you find it next week, you still have to get a replacement because the Home Office have cancelled it. But it's quite a straightforward process. You just go online, fill in the details,
And they'll issue
and
a
they
new
send
one.
you a new one out.
Right.
So it'll have the same information, like your date of birth, your name, the course end date, but it'll have a new valid from date, and it'll have a new BRP number.
Right.
So that'll be the two differences on the new one.
Okay, so just to highlight, so they don't have to go back to their own country.
No, not at all.
So just stay on in the UK,
Yep.
get a new BRP
If it
card.
happens in the UK, they can stay in the UK.
Unless it's happening overseas.
If it's overseas, it's a slightly different process because you have to apply for a single entry visa to come back into the UK, and then you apply for the BRP replacement.
This thing happened before. They went to Europe.
Yes, it happens. Yeah.
They lost their BRP card, and of course we still assist them. We also assist students who's having problem when they are in the UK. So we always advise the students, get in touch. They have to get a single entry visa just to go back to the UK, or they can also go back to their own country.
Oh, absolutely, they can. But if it's during term time, that'll count as missed time. So, our students have to be very aware when they're travelling to Europe or America or wherever they want to go during vacation period, that they're back in time for their classes. And sometimes we found students, unfortunately, who similar to that have gone to Europe and have lost their documentation, and it's taken a while for them to get in touch with the embassy or to get a police report and things like that, and it can take a bit longer. But sometimes they are quicker just going back to their home country as well. So it just depends on
it depends on how they can arrange.
Absolutely.
Going back
it depends on what country they're in and how easy it is to get to an embassy and things like that. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. It's always funny. Sometimes we always got this kind of stories from students. Right, we talk about visa, we talk about the supports given to any international students from anywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
When they are coming into the country, to Edinburgh.
So just on that, we do pre-arrival events online, and I think it's really important when we send a communication to all the students that we issue a CAS to, and our non-CAS, coming in for a single semester. But we always invite them to seminar, to the online event, and it's really important to try and attend the event because we do give a lot of really useful information that will help streamline the process for the students coming into the UK.
Exactly.
So it's really important, if you get that email, try not to ignore it, or don't think that it's not important, because actually it is quite important. And it's helpful.
It does. It does. Right. Any message that you would like to remind Indonesian students specifically before they arrive?
My first thing is, remember that you're coming to the UK to study, and as much as that can be very hard sometimes, you're allowed to have fun. You are allowed to have fun. You're not coming to the UK and not enjoy the place, But on a serious note, if you're coming to the UK on a student visa, the Home Office have rules, the university has rules, and you must abide by these rules. it's really important to abide by these rules.
Yeah.
Working conditions, you know, absolutely you're allowed to work. While students are in the UK, they're allowed to work up to 20 hours during term time.
Yeah.
And during vacation periods, they can work full-time hours. So don't work more than 20 hours during term time.
20 hours per week.
Per week,
Yeah.
yeah. And, you know, only work if you can. Like if your academic timetable does not allow you to work, then don't, you know. But you'll get to know that kind of thing. You'll get to understand the timetable, you'll get to understand what free time you have and whether or not you want to take up a hobby or whether you want to work, you know. So it's that. But, you know, as much as I want all our students to enjoy their time at Edinburgh Napier University, as a student visa holder, you've got restrictions.
Yeah.
And you must abide by them.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
No
Kat.
bother
That
at
was
all.
a very nice conversations that we had, and it does give a lot of information to students that they know when they have issues, when they have things to ask, they can just drop by to your office.
Absolutely.
And they can ask anything.
Our office is open 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and we also have appointments and drop-in sessions on each of the campuses, and all that information is on My Napier. It'll show there what day our appointments run.
Yeah, the portal My Napier
Yes.
is the one that
Very useful.
that is always accessed by students who's
Yeah.
going to Edinburgh Napier University. You'll have that portal. If you go in, everything is actually on the website. But if you still prefer to talk to someone, you can come
Absolutely.
and see them.
Yeah.
They'll assist you in any way they can. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, itu tadi adalah perbincangan saya dengan Miss Kat Morrison. Beliau adalah kepala untuk kantor visa dan support international student. Apapun yang menjadi kendala kita pada saat kita tiba di Inggris atau pada saat kita berkuliah di Inggris, kantor seperti ini adalah menjadi kontak pertama kita untuk kita hubungi dan kita bisa bertanya segala sesuatunya yang berhubungan dengan masalah atau hal-hal yang sedang kita hadapi, mengenai visa, mengenai akomodasi, mengenai segala macamnya. Mereka mengcover segala macam. Jadi tidak perlu khawatir, teman-teman akan berangkat ke Edinburgh Napier tahun ini. Paling tidak sudah tahu dari video ini siapa yang akan dihubungi. Kantor mereka juga ada tertera, alamatnya jelas. Nanti saya akan lampirkan alamat dari kantor Miss Kat Morrison ini. Lantas tidak lupa pada saat kita berangkat pastikan semua dokumennya lengkap. Juga seperti tadi disampaikan, apabila ada kehilangan dokumen atau apa, kita bisa selalu menghubungi mereka untuk bisa dibantu dan disolusikan.